What if I told you there's a new AI tool that can analyze your business in ways you haven't seen before and combine information from both your bank statement and your operations to produce operational action items so that you can do yourself or submit to a client, all within minutes? Show a new tool we've been exploring here. It's basically an AI accounting workflows tool. So you give it all the CSVs and PDFs and a whole bunch of integrations into your POS systems or your e-commerce systems, and it just figures it out all for you. So it'll create profit and loss reports, it'll create dashboards for you, it'll create any sales taxes that you need to be tracking. It's called Ledgend AI. It's new. It's essentially all about accounting workflows. And the biggest thing in it is that once you hook up AI to your data, AI will then be able to properly manage it, put it together, put it into the ledger, and then create the proper reports and dashboards that you want. So this is it right here. And what I wanted to show you is how can we analyze restaurant information in terms of sales and performance so that we can improve the restaurant. And the reason why I wanted to show you this is because I'm currently analyzing some data and performance insights for a restaurant. And what this AI tool does is that it puts all the data together and then it spits out the right dashboards that you want so that you can make decisions from it. But we're going to take it even further. We're going to take out those dashboards and we're going to use another tool from Google called NotebookLM, and we're going to see what insights does it gather from all these different data points. So this is the interface of Ledgend AI. These are the dashboards that it already created for me after I gave it all the data that it needs. That data is the bank statement information and credit card information, and also POS level information and time tracking data as well. So Ledgend is the only software that can take all of these, properly orchestrate it so that you're reporting the right numbers. You're not reporting just, if, for example, you put this into ChatGPT. ChatGPT is good for quick analysis of a small amount of numbers. It's not good for thousands of rows of data, which this has. So this is the dashboard here, which I'll be talking about. But just to show you a little bit, this is the transaction level information. So this is all the information related to the bank statement. And then it is able to connect to various POS systems and time tracking and e-commerce systems so that it can give you the insights that it wants. So here we have, for example, connections to Clover, connections to Uber, connections to Homebase, because that's the data you need in order to produce the insight that you want. For example, a big thing in restaurants is how do sales compare to your labor costs? Well, your labor costs, it's much more complicated than just, compare it to your payroll withdrawals, because labor costs, first of all, they might be by location. Second of all, your payroll might not exactly align, and never does align with the dates of your sales so that you can be comparing the right weeks and the right numbers. And one thing I love about Ledgend is that you can create any report that you want, and it creates reports based on your business type. So one thing that restaurants need is weekly reporting, right? And most of QuickBooks, for example, is focused on monthly or annual or quarter. And restaurants and retailers, that's how they report. They report week by week. They want to know last week's performance, not necessarily last quarter's or last month's performance, so that they can make adjustments, real-time adjustments to the labor hours, for example, for that day. So this is the dashboard that Ledgend created for this restaurant chain. As you can see, we have the sales information, we have the wages, and we have an expense breakdown for the last month. These are essentially the three things that need to be tracked for a restaurant chain, and it needs to be done by location. Now, I used Ledgend because I don't want to spend a full weekend managing the data sets and the spreadsheets and cleaning up the data and creating the pivot tables and making sure the dates align and trying to learn how can I do weekly reporting in the various reports and trying to align all the fees to make sure I'm recording the right numbers. So Ledgend AI uses the AI reasoning engine to put all these pieces together and spits out the right dashboards. So let's go through daily sales. Here it's broken it out by location and by whether it's in person, Clover, which is a POS system, or it's through Uber. And then this is where the cool things start happening. This is the weekly sales. This is total sales, and this is the sales for each location. And then it gives you the wages breakdown. So this is by week, the wages breakdown. And right away, you can see that there are some weeks that are just not doing too well. Here, the total wage percentage is 37.2%, which for most restaurants is considered very poor performance. Then here, this is the most clear as daylight data pieces that you can get. Here, it's further breaking it down by location and the trend of that wage percentage. You can see, for example, one of the locations is constantly doing well, and the other location is actually constantly performing very poorly. So we can tell the business owner here that this is actually happening, and we can see why are operations in one place so much better than the other place. Is one place understaffed more than the other, or maybe overstaffed more than the other? Here, I love this report which Ledgend created. It is basically further refining the wage information, because this tells you week by week over time, but this tells you maybe there are specific days of the week, which is how restaurants operate. Again, why using QuickBooks might not be the best option here. There may be specific days of the week that you need to tell the business owner to optimize, because telling the business owner you just need to reduce wage percentage, that's not very helpful information. So this is what this exact report gives you, which Ledgend created for me. This report is for the last 3 weeks for each location, what has been the wage percentage. So this example 1 bar here represents 3 weeks of information on Mondays. It is clear over here that Mondays to Wednesdays need some work. So maybe here there was some scheduling beforehand, and then the schedule was not adjusted, right? Let's say you hired someone and you told them they're gonna work Mondays to Fridays, but you never ended up adjusting this to accommodate the new sales behaviors that you're seeing. Here's a daily percentage. It's a lot of information, but this all rolls up to this. And then more indication that this business is performing poorly is, so far we've looked at the sales, which have been kind of going up and down. It's getting better. We've also looked at the wages. We have some clear optimizations to make. Then there are many other expenses in the business other than just wages, which is exactly where Ledgend shines. It doesn't only take POS data, and it doesn't only take bank statement data like QuickBooks. It actually combines both pieces of data so that you can see the full picture to determine how your business is operating. And the most clear example of this is right here. This is the expense breakdown by sales. So we have the sales from various places, and then here it shows you the 2 most important numbers that a business is operating under. This is for the prior month. Essentially what we're saying here is that the business is operating under 77%, or what we call prime costs. 77% of sales are related to food packaging and payroll, which is very high. So that's a piece of information that you can go and tell the owner about ways to optimize this business. So Ledgend created all this information for Red and Joe Burgers, but we can take it even a step further. I'm going to use another tool called Google NotebookLM, which is just basically a tool where you paste a bunch of things and then it gets insights from it. So we're going to take these dashboards from Ledgend and we're going to put it into NotebookLM, which is a free tool that you can use to paste information, and I'm going to show you all that. One thing Ledgend does is that it makes it easy to copy and paste various pieces of information from across the system, whether it be these dashboards. Always look for this icon, or in various reports that you want. Say here, copy here, various pieces of data that you want, I can copy here. Or even if I want a list of transactions, or even if I want, let's say if I'm talking to my accountant and I want journal entry. So anyways, let's go and start putting this information in NotebookLM. I'm just going to copy. In NotebookLM, you add a source. You choose copy text and click the pasted information. Well, I'm just going to do this for all the relevant dashboard widgets. All the information is here. And the way Notebook works is you have your conversation over here about the information on the left side. So we're just going to say, this is a restaurant chain. To analyze the data, report the trends, and produce action item. I can tell the owner form meaning about major and minor action item, and also what to double down. Okay, so it's written all this right now. So let's go through it. Cost structure is heavy on the primaries. I think prime cost here, like we've said before, 77.4. So right off the bat, you can now inform the business owner that the benchmark is 55 to 65%. Those 2 numbers are combined. There's also labor efficiency gap. Actually, it got the same conclusion we had, which is Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays are kind of the worst days. In terms of platform performance, here it's warning us about that 6.9%. I believe 6.9% of total sales is related to our Uber marketing fee, or just Uber fees in general. So that's something that maybe need to be looked at. And then here it's telling us that King is much more volatile to sales growth and dip day to day or week to week. It could be because they just are in vastly different locations with just different behaviors around where they are. Maybe one is a very consistent family style place. Another one maybe is in a touristy place where it relies on events. So you can now give this report to the business owner, right? There needs to be aggressive food cost control. Food is at 40%. We need it to be at 28 to 32%. You need to to maybe find new vendor. You're overstaffed Mondays to Wednesdays. So that needs to be closer to 30%. So the business owner needs to understand why this is happening Mondays to. Another one is maybe you're paying yourself too much, right? The business owner is paying themselves too much. This is what Joe Payments is. So those were the major items to drive business growth. And it's also giving me the smaller item. It's asking me to review the ROI on the Uber marketing. So if I'm spending money on Uber marketing and my food and labor costs are that high, then we need to really rethink that. We also need to see why one utilities is much greater than why utilities and repair. It just seems like that's a high amount. Here it's telling us things that are going great, right? Weekend volume, the King locations grow. And then let me do something that's going to blow your mind. I'm going to create an infographic about this because different people absorb information in different ways. So it's right here. This took a while actually for it to generate. You can now give this to the client. They absorb information. It's actually pretty good. Here it's telling us our operational cost, 40% food and packaging. We have high payroll investment. It's giving us the insights over here about what's happening on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's telling us that King is leading the charge here. Sunday wage efficiency is the best. This is actually, I didn't even catch this. On Sundays, you have the best efficiency. Well, why is that? Why can't we copy what we do on Sundays and copy that to Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays? So you can provide this report to the business owner. You can also prompt this report to be in different ways. Maybe this is not what I wanted to focus on. Maybe I wanted to focus on other things. This would have taken you hours and hours to analyze all the spreadsheets, to put together all the data, to clean it up, to get all the exports, to then start analyzing the data, producing the charts that you want, and then producing this, let's say, visual report with the insights I just showed you in NotebookLM. So my suggestion to you is if you're analyzing a business and you want to do it fast, combine both Ledgend and NotebookLM to get these